Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here, and now the news. Well, that's what I kind of feel like with these things on. Long story short, I had a bit of an ill couple of days, managed to get a throat infection, then conjunctivitis, which is always a bonus if you can double up. Have to wear the glasses instead of the contact lenses, which brought on a knock-on thing with this video that I hadn't thought of, is if you've got a backlight and you're wearing glasses, these two massive big circle light things in my eyes, which was just a bit daft looking. So unfortunately, getting this kind of dark-ish, weird video with me looking like I'm about to read the news. I guess it is the Tottenham Hotspur news in a way. Just wanted to, and actually that's really bright. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You've got to go with these things. We go into the Tottenham Hotspur news of recent days. All the internationals are finished now. Great. Rodrigo Bentancur, the last man in action, he got sent off as Uruguay lost 5-1, I think it was, to Mauricio Pochettino's USA in Florida overnight. There have been some confidence boosters, though. It wasn't all about being sent off. Brennan Johnson, you might have seen it, scored a terrific goal, ran past a couple of players, cut inside, smoosh right into the top corner. More like a smash than a smoosh. They won 7-1, Wales against North Macedonia. On any other night, that might have been the big international goal in terms of high quality from the home nations. But no, Scotland absolutely scored some worldies in their big win against Denmark. So confidence booster for Brennan Johnson. I think he was a sub in the first game. In the second game, comes and scores that lovely goal. Vicario played 90 minutes for Italy in the first game, got a clean sheet as they beat Moldova 2-0. Then he got a rest in actually a 4-1 defeat to Norway. They're in the playoffs, aren't they, Italy? There's quite a lot of rest going on, actually, in terms of either second game or first game for Spurs players, which is good. It's probably what you want ahead of a North London derby. Although some players didn't get any minutes. I think Richarlison was unused in both of Brazil's games. Jed Spence was unused in both of England's games, of course. João Paulinho was unused in both of Portugal's games. So there's three players that should come into this game absolutely fresh. Obviously, Jed coming off the back of having had that knock pre-international break or pre-final game before the break. Christian Romero, just the one game. He got a clean sheet as Argentina beat Angola 2-0. And then their second game, which I think was in India, got postponed. So just the one game for him. Similar-ish with Pedro Porro, although he played 45 minutes as Spain's first World Cup qualifier against Georgia and was unused against Turkey. So fresh legs there. Mickey van der Ven, 90 minutes against Poland in the first game, unused against Lithuania. Flip that around for Xavi Simons. Xavi played, I think he was unused against Poland, and then he played 78 minutes against Lithuania. Scored a really nice goal. It's a really kind of nice composed finish as well. Kevin Danso, he was the one that did play 90 minutes in both of Austria's games as they qualified for the World Cup. He got an assist in one. Probably one of the players you want to be playing 90 minutes, to be honest, just to keep him sharp and ticking over, because he's going to be needed in these games ahead. Matisse Tel scored, I think he made 12 goals in 20 appearances for France under 21s. Wilson Odobert came off the bench in their second game as well for them in the second half. Obviously, we know Destiny Udogie did not join up with Italy. I think he went off to Dubai on, I think it was part rest holiday, but as holidays often are, and part kind of like they go out to there's these kind of camps you go out there where you can do a bit of training, get a bit of treatment, get a bit of everything. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was there at the same time as Dejan Kulusevski as well and some members of Spurs staff. So that, I think, brought us that little video of Decky doing some kind of very early grass work in terms of kind of, it was doing like little kind of touch volleys to people and right around him in a circle. Still a positive sign, but yeah, I think the pair of them were both there with respective families, of course. What else we have in international break was interesting. Jamie Donnelly scored his first goal for Northern Ireland in only his second start. Got the penalty against Luxembourg. I think it ended up being a winner. I think they won 1-0. I could be completely wrong, but I think they did. So great news for Jamie, getting off the mark on international level. Pat Matassar, you'll probably be aware by now, substituting the first half, was on the end of a heavy challenge as Senegal lost to Brazil at the Emirates Stadium, of all places. Senegal manager Pat Thiaw said, Thiaw, so sorry, that's just dreadful pronunciation of it. Said of Pap, he got hit and then he didn't feel well, so as a precaution he preferred to come off, but I don't think it's a big deal. And then this week he said, because he didn't go to the second game, Pat Matassar said, we left him in London. He took a knock, so we felt it would be difficult for him to recover in just 2 days. Since we're in his home city, we preferred to leave him at the disposal of his club so he could receive treatment there. So hopefully we'll get positive news from him about him on Friday. In that Brazil-Senegal game, you might also be aware, Gabriel went off. I think his looks to be more serious. There's potential of him missing a bit of time for Arsenal. Obviously, it's an area where Arsenal are quite strong, but still, he's a player that has caused Spurs problems in North London derbies in recent years. Lucas Bergvall came home from Sweden duty following his concussion. Little quote here: Swedish FA executive Stefan Pettersson said, "We had agreed with Tottenham's doctor to do some tests during the week and then run at full speed so that Lucas would feel it properly. When there was a reaction, there was no hesitation. We didn't want to take any risks." So, yeah, Lucas back because they didn't get the perfect reaction to the test they wanted. So better safe than sorry and send him back. If you can work out which of my eyes is the sore one. It's that one. I think it's getting quite red. Didn't need to pull it down like that for you. What else do we got? Luca Williams-Barnett, and Malachi Hardy, both back from the Under-17 World Cup. England went out 4-0 to Austria in the round of 16 yesterday. I think they had a man sent off England as well, which didn't make their task any easier. What good news we got? Radu Dragusin got 45 minutes in that behind closed doors friendly against Leyton Orient, his first minute since his ACL injury in, was it January? For those wondering, Spurs won 2-1, thanks to an own goal and a goal from the only other first-team player I think that was involved, and that's Dane Scarlett. Good for Dane Scarlett to get on the score sheet, especially if we don't know the striker situation and what's going to happen there, if he's going to get some minutes. Mohamed Kudus, obviously, we'll find out definitively on Friday from Thomas Frank's press conference, but he did say ahead of the international break that he was very confident that he would be available for Arsenal. I would be surprised if he's not, but it's Tottenham, so who knows. Obviously, we'll get updates on Solanke and whether this fortnight or so was an important fortnight for him, as Thomas Frank said, and Randall Kolo Muani. Obviously, we had the jaw issue, which French reports were all over the place to begin with. They were saying it wasn't serious, and it was serious. Then I reported at the start of last week that a specialist has confirmed Randall Kolo Muani had fractured his jaw. However, as fractured jaws go, it was a reasonably positive diagnosis in that it didn't require surgery, so that should be less than the 6 to 8 weeks or so that was speculated after it happened. Very quickly on a non-now Spurs player, Troy Parrott. What an international break. I'm not a huge fan of the international breaks anyway, but my goodness, if there was a medal for great international breaks, Troy Parrott might just win it. He scored 2 goals against Portugal, then scored a hat-trick in the second game, and including a last gasp winner that essentially, I think, sent them through to the playoffs in the Republic of Ireland, and even Dublin Airport said they were going to name the airport after him. What a brilliant time for him. And just watching the scenes back, he's just so emotional. He did his interview, he's crying his eyes out, and it was just brilliant. That is what football's all about. And to score 5 goals in 2 games, just announce yourself on the kind of the biggest stage, really, the international stage. Great for him. Actually, talk about, if we're on the theme of ex-Tottenham players, Keziah Sterling Do you remember that name? Played a couple of times for Spurs back in the day. Played in the Champions League again. Who was it? Was it Apoel Nicosia, I think? And also in the FA Cup against Crystal Palace for Spurs. He's a striker. Came through the system, was really kind of... came through the system. I think he came from Orient when he was 15, 16. And then scored lots of goals for the under-18s. Poch talked him up, and yeah, he got his chance. And then just unfortunately, just injuries kind of didn't help him, especially when Mourinho came along, and he eventually just kind of his career took him in different directions, went to USA. The reason I'm talking about this is I should have mentioned at the start, I interviewed him, and it was a nice kind of full circle moment with Keziah Sterling, because I interviewed Kaz back in, God, when was it? Maybe 2019, 2018, I remember what it was now. So after an FA Youth Cup game, and it was his first ever kind of interview with not the club, but like a proper media interview. And yeah, and he was a young player, and he didn't say too much. I had to kind of stitch it all together. And so we kind of caught up last week and did a very different interview. It was just great. It was really great. He's experienced so much in his life since that moment. Like I said, playing in the Champions League, playing in the FA Cup, playing in various levels of football. He was at Sunderland as well, wasn't he, for a spine? He got this horrendous injury that started off as a dead leg, and we know about dead legs this season with Cullen Mawani, but Keziah's kind of ended up, I think it was like a blood clot. It was just horrible. It all went very wrong for him, and it was quite a frightening one. And yeah, he went off to America, played in levels below the MLS or below MLS, and yeah, he's now back and he's playing in the Baller League, which you might have seen, you might well be aware of. It's this five-a-side league with lots of kind of crazy different rules and stuff that comes in. It's backed by all celebrities, celebrity managers. I mean, the week I'd done the interview, just the night before, Keziah Sterling's team, which is managed by someone called Sharky. They beat Idris Elba's team. And yeah, Keziah is a bit of a star in that league. He was the MVP of last season's final. And yeah, he just enjoyed himself. It's only on a Monday night. He's looking to get back into 11-a-side football, and he's still, you watch it and he's got tons of quality still. But it's just lovely to catch up with him. Have a little look. It's a long read interview because a lot's happened in his life since. And yeah, it's on various social media platforms I'm on. Just have a little look. It will take you through to it. And it was just really nice to catch up with him. It was a little full circle moment for his first interview to his most recent. And yeah, he's a good guy. It was good to catch up. And yeah, just it'd be lovely kind of if he gets like a next chapter in his 11-a-side football career. Definitely the Baller League is growing popularity because it's got all these influencers and actors and TV presenters that kind of promote it quite heavily. I think Basuma was there the other night as well, watching on Monday night. So I think Sky is showing it as well. So it's very well kind of advertised and out there. And like I say, some of the little switches and changes that happen later in the games are quite interesting. And the penalties are like kind of like ice hockey 1v1 things. And Keziah Sterling's very good at that, being a former Champions League striker, I guess you could say. So yeah, so there you go. That was just a bit so I was going to rattle off. I'm aware of how weird this video looks compared to normal ones, so I do apologise. It is very dark and strange looking. Yeah, it's making my eyes look really weird, these glasses, as well with the light. Right, let's get into the Q&A that I did promise I'd do. We had a few questions underneath the last video. Ambi Atch is how I'm going to pronounce that because it might sound a bit different if you say it all in one word. Says, I saw something about our AIA sponsorship ending. Indy's very annoyed about that. Any news who might take that up? And what's the over-under that it will be read and will tick off all the fans? I don't know yet who's going to take that over. I'm sure Spurs will be shopping that around and getting the biggest possible sponsorship. I'm sure many Spurs fans will be hoping it's not a red one. Not after years of that annoying lots of people. They need to bring in a lot of money. AIA deal was a pretty lucrative deal each year. I don't know, it was 20 or 30 million. It was a fair chunk each year. So they kind of need to replace that with hopefully something even better if they can. What's this one? Fiery Panther asks, how has being a Spurs journalist affected your Spurs fandom? Given that you were a Spurs fan before starting to cover them, do you see any differences in the way you view the team, players, fans, etc.? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Because you kind of see him behind the curtain. It's a little bit like seeing The Wizard of Oz and realising it's just a guy turning a wheel. Sorry to spoil that for anyone that might have not watched Wizard of Oz yet over the decades. So yeah, I do think it takes away some of the romanticism of it. But then you also, I guess that gets replaced with when you see a player, I guess like Kazaya and Troy are good examples. I know they're not at the club anymore, so it's not the greatest example, but it's lovely to follow someone from when they were young in football, talk to them, kind of speak to them over the years, and then see them have the big moments in their career. I mean, Troy just having an incredible last fortnight, and those, I guess, are the more, I'm not saying romantic, but the beauty of the game moments for me is when you see those kind of those stories and you're kind of there in the middle of it. So that maybe replaces that. In terms of players, definitely you see them more as humans, and I do think that fans sometimes don't, especially the way they talk to them on social media. You see that, and I think also, I said this before, there's a computer game element to it. They're seen as players in FIFA Football Manager rather than humanising them, which is why I think the more of these little videos that Spurs and other clubs can do on TikTok and things like that to humanise the players, I think is a good idea. And things like James Maddison's YouTube, I think, will be very helpful for stuff like that as well, because I think the more human and kind of people they seem like, that was a terrible sentence, but you know what I mean. I think people then identify with them a bit more rather than just seeing them as these kind of robotic multi-millionaire footballers that should just put up with anything that comes their way. So definitely they're humanised and talk to them a lot, so I kind of get to see behind stuff, and it gives me, I guess, a bit more sympathy and maybe a bit more context as well to sometimes things. In terms of the fans, you see a bit of everything, don't you? You see the good and the bad of the fans. You see some amazing support, like especially the away support I've seen in so many places, incredible. I've also seen, fans maybe not giving players a lot of time or turning on them quite quickly. But that's not just Spurs fans. That's all clubs. It happens everywhere. It'd be very interesting to kind of see what football fandom was like, decades and decades and decades ago before the advent of social media, and whether social media has played a part in changing it, I don't know. But yeah, absolutely it's affected. It hasn't affected, obviously, how much I support the club as I always did. I was born into a Spurs supporting family. I had no choice. It was in my DNA, in my blood. I think sometimes maybe I'm a bit tougher on them because of that, perhaps, because maybe it annoys me even more, maybe. But I've always tried to be as objective as possible because you kind of have to. Otherwise, what's the point of kind of being a journalist kind of thing if you can't attack something in an objective way? There'll be occasions when, you've seen me on here getting annoyed and emotional about stuff, but ultimately, hopefully I still get to that kind of, that contextualized view on things. Chance Cofield asked, do you know the final score of the behind closed doors friendly? How was Radu? Yep, I forgot what I said the score was now. Was it 2-1? I forgot what I had said about 10 minutes ago. With an own goal down Scarlett and Radu playing 45 minutes and James Maddison coming to watch. Hopefully it looked like everything came through okay. Adam James Harris asked, should we be worried about Dominic Solanke? He had minor surgery a while back, not even back on the grass. Is there a situation where he needs major surgery? £65 million forward who's only played 40 minutes this season. It's a poor look. Yeah, he's had a nightmare with the ankle thing. I still go back to the James Maddison. We talk about behind the scenes stuff. Seeing him in that YouTube video in the last one in the summer, being asked about his ankle, and Solanke said something along the lines of, it's as good as it's going to get kind of thing, or as good as it can be, something like that. And it just shows it's just something that's really, really he's been struggling with. We'll find out on Friday. Like I said, he wasn't involved, I don't believe, in that behind closed doors friendly. And he was never going to be. Before that, he's plucked out and chucked into some tweet or something. He was never going to be. Thomas Frank said he wasn't going to be ahead of the thing. So it'll be interesting to see if he's been able to do any work, what he's been doing. Has he even just been jogging on grass? Has he been able to do any kind of ball work? Because, yes, there's going to have to be a point when they have to work out whether what's been done has worked or whether something a bit more drastic has to take place. In terms of any kind of surgery and things like that. We'll see on that one. Drew Dutton asks, can you clarify the situation around replacing Randall Colomwani in the Champions League squad? There's been some reports I've seen that we can do that replacement, but I know you'll be able to clarify the situation. Yeah, there is a rule, isn't there? I can't remember the exact wording of it, but you can now replace players. A couple of clubs have done that if they have a long-term injury. I feel like there's something to do with a 30-day rule in it. I don't know if they will with Colomwani because I don't know if he's going to be out as long as would be necessary to take him out. We'll see. We'll find out whether they bring Matisse Tell in or not. That'll be give it as a good indication. I mean, it's probably a question for Thomas Frank. If not Friday, then out in Paris on Tuesday ahead of the PSG game. What else we got? CWO 978. What about the injury crisis again? It's nuts. Feels like we're doing well, all things considered. It's just Tottenham, isn't it? Tottenham and another injury crisis. Although it feels like hopefully, fingers crossed, they're starting to come back. A few of them in their dribs and drabs. But I think probably next month is when you'll get a fair chunk of them back, won't you? I mean, again, I've said this before, if you kind of got to look at it both ways. If Postecoglou was getting sympathy because of the injury crisis, then so in certainly plenty of respects Thomas Frank should as well. But also, I guess, if you were still critical of Postecoglou, then you've kind of got to be the same for Thomas Frank. You kind of got to maintain a consistency, I suppose, about the way we go about it. Dan Steelage says, is the treatment room too comfy? Remove the PS5 and turn the heating off. Solanke was never injured at Bournemouth. Takai was never injured before joining. They join Spurs and then get injured. It's crazy. Yeah, and I think players want to stay in the treatment room. I think it's like a nightmare, especially as the treatment room, I think there's windows that face training pitches as well, so you can see what you're missing. Absolutely do not want to be in there. What else we got? Joey's Hideout 6514 asks, a bit of a stretch, but what do you think about us offloading Richie and bringing Harry Kane when we can and maybe Angelo Stiller later? The two should add a lot of needed quality to the team. In terms of Richarlison, he's had a tough time. It's really difficult. Every time I kind of feel like Richarlison's future maybe belongs elsewhere, or it'd be better for him to be elsewhere, he goes on a run where he does really well. And then it normally gets injured. But right now, yeah, he's been a little bit kind of out of form. Obviously, scored just before the break. And people still telling me that it was lucky. He's not. He turns his head. It is very much a reaction. But I don't know if Harry Kane will come back. I would love Harry Kane to come back at some point. I just don't know. Just the way he was talking last time he was asked about it, just didn't feel. I know he's got to be respectful, of course, to Bayern and everything. But I don't know if the return to the Premier League is as big a deal by listening to the last way he spoke about it. What else we got? Anne Bonner asks, why are we having so many long-term injuries? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I don't know why it is. Maybe they're creeping into the game more often. I know the women's game is absolutely kind of filled with kind of injuries that they get. Actually, I forgot to mention on the Tottenham Hotspur women, they had a great battling performance against Arsenal in North London Derby. Bearing in mind where Spurs women were and the history they have compared to Arsenal's longer history in the WSL, they played really well. 0-0 draw. Did really well at Brisbane Road. I know that was the other thing I was going to mention as well. Semenyo, it came out in the week, Antoine Semenyo, £65 million release clause in January. If it's done before a certain point, so they can get a replacement. If I remember reading, I was on my way to see my mum in Scotland, and I just saw that as I was heading up there. But yeah, actually, back on the women. Playing some really nice football out from the back. Martin Ho's got them playing some really good football, so that was good to see. But Semenyo, we'll see. Spurs obviously big interest in him. He is absolutely class. He would fit the system as well. 65 million, I guess. It'd be a big test of the Lewis family's backing of the club. There's a release clause there to be had. Could Spurs go for him? He has, in most recent interview, didn't seem desperate to get away from Bournemouth, but it would be a proper test for all involved. That would be right. What else we got? BTDJC asks what's happened to Jamie Donnelly at Stoke. Just not working for him at the moment, unfortunately. Just not getting the game time. I think Stoke have got quite a settled team, haven't had a lot of injuries, unlike Spurs, and he's just not getting the game time right now. I would imagine you'll probably see a recall in the winter window just to get him football, because you can't. There's no point in him staying there just for an experience that doesn't include match minutes. I mean, things can change quickly. You can get an injury, you can get in a team, it can become undroppable. Didn't start off in the team at Leyton Orient. We kind of was in, then he was out for a long period and then got back in it. And then what became an undroppable. There's a few kind of loans. I think Manor Solomon, it's not really working out for him back in Spain. In Spain. So I wouldn't be stunned if he doesn't kind of get another loan. DJ Hetera asked, did you notice Thomas is now talking about flow rather than free floating? I didn't actually. I keep thinking he's saying free. Well, he has been saying free floating. I'll have to listen out to that on Friday, see what he says. What's this one? Mrs. P1000 or 000. Have you noticed a couple of players are standing on the same square metre of the pitch in every match? One of them is usually one of the new additions to the team. I've not analysed it in detail, but I'm noticing it more and more. I don't know what that is. Maybe there's a joke in there that I've missed. I haven't noticed that, no. Stephen Shaw asks, how's Guesty holding up? Guesty is doing fine. He is travelling the world and seeing lots of places right now and making me very jealous by sending me lots of photos from very exotic locations. I think he's back very soon. I think that's really it. The rest of them are kind of pertaining to the United match, which obviously is kind of been and gone now. I don't think there's anything new in there. Sorry, I should have looked before. I just kind of always, I always do these things kind of on the fly to make them more kind of a reaction answer rather than a meticulously planned and boring one. Could be boring either way. What else we got? Yeah, I don't think there's anything more in there, and there's no need to prolong this. It was always going to be a short one anyway because it's an international break. Right, so we're back to Hotspur Way on Friday afternoon for Thomas Frank's press conference ahead of that game, and it's the particular version of that game that I despise the most. The game at the Emirates never goes well. It's never an enjoyable experience in there as a Spurs fan, of course. Hopefully this can be the one it changes, but we'll see. I always kind of go into these games with dread, and then everything else is a bonus, is the best way to look at it. It's a hell of a few days or so. You've got Arsenal Sunday, you've got PSG away as well on Wednesday, back to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Fulham on the Saturday, and then make the trip back to St James's Park, my first time of the season, to play Newcastle on Tuesday night, which has got that horrendous, is it 8:15 kickoff time, which pretty much, unless you are going to drive through the night, rules out coming back that night. There is no rest for the Spurs players now for a little while. Like I said, it's probably a good thing that a lot of them have had this international break as a bit of a rest period, because the games come thick and fast now. That's the last international break for a while. And this is the kind of time last year when Spurs were absolutely killed by injuries, and they were having to put out the same 13, 14 players. That's what Spurs have to avoid during this period. Otherwise, the whole season kind of, in terms of the Premier League, got absolutely killed during this period, didn't it? So hopefully that changes, and they get back to... I've started to get it back round, hopefully, with the United game, which they should have won in the end, really, shouldn't they? Just two huge away games to kick it all back off. If they can get some positive performances, and we'd love to get some positive results, I think then the momentum's with them. I'm a little bit wary if they kind of go into these games and they kind of get really... put themselves in a bad way, I guess, for the ones afterwards, because it just keeps on rolling on. And Brentford after that, isn't it? Thomas Frank against his old team, and there's loads of narratives aplenty to come. On PSG, you've got Audebert and Xavi going back to their old club as well. Randa Kolo Mwani as well. Well, not going to probably be fit to play in that, but narratives galore. So sorry for the weird video, slightly in the dark. To be honest, this one looks like a bit of a horror show anyway. So maybe it would have been better to have bright lights covering them anyway. It just would have looked like headlamps. That's the Tottenham video for this week. Hopefully I'll be feeling a bit better in time for the press conference on Friday. And then next video will probably be, I would imagine, Monday, because of the amount of work I'll have to do after the game on Sunday, being a North London derby. But yes, I shall be back, and hopefully without the glasses, back to contact lenses, because I am pretty blind as a bat. That's it. I kind of thought about, do I just go without them? And I realised I have a little notes that I look at, and I'd be going like this. What's that say? Like a Mr. Magoo or something. That's one for the kids, isn't it? Right, time to head off. Back on Monday, we'll chat about that game. It'd be lovely to be able to do a nice positive video after that one with no sigh at the start. But let's see what it brings us. So as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.